And it's like, no matter what kind of storm that you're in, because being an entrepreneur, it's not all clear skies. Sometimes it's a storm and sometimes it's a shit storm.
Welcome back to the Sacred Soul podcast. I'm super excited for today's episode. I have Dr. Sheila Campbell. Thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to connect with you and your listeners.
Yes, absolutely. And I love to ask my guests this question just because, like, I'm a deep philosophical psyche Scorpio. Who are you and who are you not?
It's so funny. I have not been asked that question, who are you not, on a podcast. So when you first said that you were going to ask that question, I'm like, oh God, I don't even know what I'm going to say to that. But who am I? I am Sheila Marie Campbell. I'm from Needles, California, and I am the daughter of Ellen and Brian Campbell. And my parents are both first generation from Ireland. So I'm an Irish Catholic girl at heart. And I am obviously a daughter, a sister, and a very good friend to my friends. And I love being an auntie. And I think that at the core of me is who I am. And I think that I have spent a lot of time just studying, and my studies have led me deeper and deeper into more studies. And then before I knew it, I had a doctorate, and then I became an entrepreneur. And I don't really resonate with like that is necessarily who I am. I think that that's what I do in the world and it's how I spend my time. But I think that like the core of me is a sweetheart that loves to like cuddle my dogs and my nieces and nephews, and just like spending time with my family. I think that that's something that has been just such more of a precious part of my life these days is making time for those people that I love. And I think that who I am not, as I have been putting myself out there in the world, it's just like anytime you're putting yourself out there, you can divide a room. And I think that being a philosopher, like you were saying, it's like you and putting yourself out there, it's like some people are going to really resonate with you and some people are just hateful. And I am not all of that stuff. The people that really genuinely know me in my life and are genuinely connected to me, it's like they know me and they know my heart. And I have a very pure and a very good heart. And I'm not, what people say about me online. I'm not what people say about me that meet me in 1 minute and decide, that they know me and that they like psychically read me, or they take a lecture from me and they understand all of my studies. Because in 1 hour or even 5 hours of your time, there's not any possible way that someone can get to know you fully. And I think that I would say overarching, I am not what people think about me is probably, and especially being someone that, not to be conceited or anything, but that looks like I do and dresses like I do. Like I love fashion. I love makeup. I love hair. I love the glitz and the glam. And I mean, I live in Los Angeles, you know what I mean? So it's like you walk in a room and people size you up and they think, that they know you, whether it's like people have thought that I'm in a trust fund, or people think that like I have like men that take care of me and fly me all over the world. And it's like, I have flown all over the world on my own dime since I was 17, because I've always been a hustler. Like I was like a 10-year-old being like, Mom, what can I do to make money? You know what I mean? And it's like, and I was like hustling all my parents' friends and like being like, can I babysit? Can I clean your closet? Can I clean your car? Like I just liked money when I was even young. And then like that compiled on itself, you start to really figure out how to make more of it. You know what I mean? And so I think that would probably be what I'm not. I am not what people think about me. And the core of me is my heart, and I am my heart. And I think that I work really, really, really hard to be in my practices of mind body connection, where I can show up in my heart and not what people think about me.
That's so powerful because it takes some of us so long in time is not the issue, but it just takes a lot of life experiences for us to finally realize that we could stand in our own power without being blended into other people's expectations or projections or ideas of us.
Of course. And I think that when you're young, you know, and especially being a young entrepreneur and you're just out there and you're trying to make connections and meet people, and it's like some people are just hateful, you know, and some people they get to know you and they throw their own projections on you. I mean, like in the work of spirituality and even in the work that I do, it's like some people have called me a witch or evil or, you know, and it's like there is not an evil bone in my body. And my family is Catholic. Like I'm not a witch, like I don't practice witchcraft. You know what I mean? Like, but I do love to pray. So it's like if you want to call me a witch for prayer, then I mean whatever. But I mean, even the
Yeah.
word witch used to mean like a wise woman. And it's like studying herbs. Like I've spent 10 years of my life studying the Materia Medica, which is like the herbal dictionary of Chinese medicine. And so it's like, okay, you're gonna call me a witch because I've spent a decade studying the Materia Medica that has been around for thousands of years. Like, okay. But it's like when I was younger, that those kind of things would hurt, you know? And I think that, like, especially moving into Los Angeles and meeting different people in different communities, whether it's like the Jewish community or a Muslim community, and it's like these different ideologies, and then people like for whatever reason, you know, they don't resonate with Chinese medicine or they don't resonate with herbal medicine, even though herbs and nutrition is the first line of defense before like the body goes into other things. But it's just like you can't take it any of it in. Like you have to just like work steadfast, I believe, in like towards your mission. And I think that that's where like more of my family roots have been really powerful for me, because I'm just like my family loves me, my nieces love me, my nephews love me. Like I don't like I just met you. You know what I mean? Like I like there's nothing to say about that. Like it's just like take it or leave it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love that self-confidence. And so tell us more about your journey leading up to the work that you do now. So before you came into Chinese medicine and acupuncture, what was your life like?
I came into acupuncture actually really young. So I was only 19 when I first started acupuncture. But before that, I think that before I started really doing acupuncture, I probably had like a few years of or a couple years of my life where I just like couldn't access my emotions. Like I just was neither here nor there. Like I didn't really cry. Like it was just like I was kind of like moving through life and I was very disassociated from my body. And that was from like trauma happening at a young age and then compound trauma and PTSD happening like over and over again. And then I ended up like, you know, just like going to college, partying all the time, going in my first semester, learning in a new city. And then it's like all of a sudden, you know, a couple years goes by and I'm like, when was the last time I cried? Like, I don't even remember the last time I cried. And then I started doing Chinese medicine, and then I just started crying all the like. It was almost like all the retroactive tears came forward. And then, I mean, even with Chinese medicine at that time, like I hadn't had a menstrual cycle in a year when I first started it, and so I started like getting Chinese medicine and then I was working with a nutritionist and I started like working on my body and getting healthy. And then I was working with a psychologist. And so I was like doing all of this while I was in college. And then just like going to school, going to university, being like a vice president of my sorority, like making different connections. And then I started an internship and I just kept up with Chinese medicine. And then my doctor actually was like, you need to study Chinese medicine, because every week I was coming in with all these questions. And I was like, oh no, I'm not smart enough for that. I didn't have the self-confidence that I have now. And then I took like a leap year between my my bachelor's and my master's. And I went and studied with a medicine woman. And she was like, you need to study Chinese medicine. And she did like psychic channeling. And it was the second time someone was like, you need to study this. And she had like told me all this stuff about like my grandparents and stuff that she could have never known. And it's funny enough, when she was doing this channeling, I was nervous about the herbal component of Chinese medicine, because you have to learn Chinese. Like it's like Hong Bai, like Huang Qin, like it's like it's not in English, it's in Chinese, and then it's in Pinyin, you know, so you're learning like the Latin version of it. And like when you take the test, like the original test when I was in school, you had to they would give you an herb and then you have to write everything. Like it's like they give you an herb, you have to look at the herb and then you have to write what the herb is. And I'm like, I can't, like my brain doesn't work like that. Like I could never do it. And she said to me, she said, you have someone on your father's line and his lineage, and she was an herbalist, and she says she's going to help you, like in the spirit form. And it was wild because I ended up going into Chinese medicine, and then my grandfather has a brother that's a historian of our family, and he keeps record of all of our family members. And so he starts talking about how the great grandmother saved my grandpa's life because she was an herbalist and her husband was an herbal, like they were herbalists of the land. And so it was such an interesting story because I didn't learn that until I was in my last year of my master's program. And I went and finished in New York, and I went and visited. I was staying actually with my uncle out there and my aunt, and he told me this whole story about our like great grandmother that was an herbalist. And it was interesting, like that story, because when I started studying, I started just praying a lot. And I started praying with her, just like, help me. And I've always done that with my studies. Like I just like lay out all my books, and I'm always like, God, please bring me to all the places that I need to study. And when I was studying the herbs, I made an herb board. It's actually in my closet. I still have it 10 years later. But I made this herb board, and I would sit there and I would meditate with the herbs, and I would touch the herbs, and I would just feel like where I felt it in my body. Like, did I feel my heart opening? Did I feel like bitterness in my mouth? Like, and I started having like a really deep personal relationship with all of the herbs. So then when it came time to take the test, I could feel the herb and I could taste the herb in my mouth. And then once I taste it, just from feeling it, then I'm like, okay, this is bitter. Okay, this is salty. This is, and then you could break it down into the categories based on, whatever it is of like the taste, the temperature, like, is it my body heating up? Is it cooling down? Does it feel neutral? And so it was a lot easier for me to remember that when I was having like a visceral experience with it. And then just spending time, like I think that anytime you're studying something that's really hard and really extensive, that you have to spend a lot of time with it. And so spending time touching, feeling, tasting was something that really worked for my body. And then obviously it like helped me pass all the tests before I came into my board examinations.
Yeah, that's so powerful that you actually incorporated the senses into a mental activity. I love that. The smell or the taste, the bitterness, or how it feels in your body. And I think some of us forget that we can use those senses to help us like really lock in the memory and what we're learning.
I think that that's something that a lot of people, they forget we're animals, because we're so disconnected from our animal nature. But at the end of the day, like, it's all instinctual. I mean, even like being in practice, like I've had my car in Los Angeles broken into 3 times, and like all of my acupuncture stuff stolen. And like when I was younger, when you would get hit like that, and $3,000, like a $3,000 hit in a second, because it's like before I got smarter and like have insurance and all the different things that I need to make sure that my profession and everything I need for my profession is locked in. But one of the times that like this man broke into my car, I had the most intense visceral like anger experience that like ignited this like hunt in me. Like it was like an animal hunt. And I was like, I'm finding him. And I just like, I could like almost like smell him from my car. And I went directly to the hotel he was at, which is on the corner, and I found his ass. And it was just like such an because it was like the whole like this whole like anger like flooded through my veins. And it was like there was like a smell in my nose where I was like, I will find him. And I felt like a freaking apex predator. Like I was just like, you are like absolutely not. And it's interesting because I felt like the energy just moved, and there was like almost like the great divide of just like the mountains moving, or the water moving of Noah's Ark, not Noah's Ark, but what is that like biblical story where like he like moves.
Moses with the water, I think.
Exactly. Moses with the water. I felt like just this divide happening where it was like I was finding this person and there was no other way around it. And it was such a fascinating thing because then I went over and then I went to the hotel manager and I was like, I need this person. I just saw him like take me to his room and he's like, I can't do that. I can't do that. And he was very uncomfortable like doing this. And I was like, you're going to do this and you're going to do it right now. And he was just like, like he just like kind of the manager froze and he's like, well, I'll go over to the room. And then he goes over to the room and he knocks on the door and I just busted the door open and I screamed at this man. And it was like, it was so, and I wasn't waiting for the police. I'm like, I'm not waiting. And I don't recommend people doing that, obviously, because some people that do that kind of stuff are dangerous. Like, I don't think you should go around I'm not promoting what I just said. I'm just saying that like with those animal instincts that we're just talking about come other layers if we allow it, you know, to move our body, where it wasn't like, I wasn't just like angry and sitting there and being like, why did this happen to me? I was like, no, I am going to find you.
Yeah. Yeah. That's like the most empowering car broken into story I've ever heard. Using that woman's intuition, that animal instinct, your senses, like seeing the energy part, like the water parting, so to speak, like, and you weren't scared. And so what I'm grabbing from this is just empowerment. And yes, obviously we're not going to promote that people like take these types of things into their own hands, but if you feel called, you know, just push your instinct. Right.
Yeah.
But like for you, it's just like you trusted yourself and like you were in like an empowered state. And I'm spiritual and woo-woo, so I believe that you were like divinely supported in every single action.
I think that that's the thing is like a lot of people are like, how could you do that? But I'm like, I feel like if it was dangerous, then I would have felt danger in my body.
You would have known.
I felt like more shriveled, but I didn't feel that way. I felt very expansive. I felt the parting. I felt the energy move, and I felt very divinely directed. And it was like,
Yeah.
go here. I could like see, you know, I think that a lot of things, like even with designing websites and designing products, everything is geometrical for me. Like it's like there's lines, there's grids, there's circles, squares, whatever it is, and it's like everything moves in a line, and it's like in a specific space for a different reason, colors, like shapes, everything is super organized. So when that kind of thing happens to me, it's also lines. It's like everything is moving in a grid or a line or a geometrical shape.
Yeah. Powerful. Now, and also your energy. So it's like, I feel like you were able to take that kind of action, to have that self-confidence and trust and listen to your intuition and instincts because of the work that you do. Yeah, yes, for other people, but also for yourself. I'm sure you probably practice your own medicine. So we're going to slide into this. What is Chinese medicine? What is acupuncture?
Well, there's two things that I want to note from what you just said. It absolutely did have to do with my energy. I mean, one of the practice that I have is more of a little bit of a Taoist practice, which is connecting to the sun every day, connecting to the moon at night, and that helps you get into the gravitational pull of your spirit. And so the gravitation of your pull of your spirit that's like where you're going to go, the coordinates of where you're going to go and how you're going to go there. And that's being connected to the Tao, which is a Taoist practice. And the Tao is just like, it's like the everything, the universe, the way. And so it's like, and the way would be like unique to every individual spirit. So it's like every day you wake up and you connect, you know, to the sun, to the moon, and then like moving forward in that. Then I took it like with the Native American medicine, which I've studied a lot of. And that's like really praying with the directions, like to the north, to the west, to the east, to the south, you know, to your ancestors, to different like animal spirits, you know, that you resonate with. And I've like built my own medicine wheel with that. So it's like with my practice every single day, I'm connecting into my own medicine wheel. And that's like useful for anything, like anything that you lose or you set down or you misplace. It's like when you're connected to your own medicine wheel, all of your items are an extension of you. And not just like your items, but like even going forward, like to entrepreneurship. Like it's like when you're connected to your medicine wheel, you're supposed to meet people in different coordinates. And that's why time space is really powerful, is because it's like, even today, you know, you and I had to connect, and we had to set a day and time and space where we're connecting again. And yes, we connected virtually, but how did you find me virtually? And then how do you also find me in the real world? And like, when you're wanting to find things in the real world, whether it's investors or clients or whatever it is that you're wanting to, then it's like, you want to be sharp with your coordinates. Like, you want to be able to like find people, you know what I mean? Like, finding everyone that's in alignment with your Tao or your way or your spirit. So that would be like one aspect of my practice, is like always like having practices every single day that clear my space to where I can be connected to the Tao. I can be connected to the way. I can be connected to my spirit. I can be connected to your spirit, and our spirits can be in resonance with each other, because for whatever reason, you know, in this particular situation, it's like to connect with your podcast. And then in another situation, maybe it would be like to connect in business or healing or whatever it is that you're looking for as an entrepreneurship. There are people, or entrepreneur, there are people that are in resonance with you, but how do you find them? And that's where I think that more of the mystical practice for myself has always come in. Like, I lead my practice with more of my mysticism, even if I'm not outwardly projecting that at all times. My mysticism is something that is always guiding me. Like, when I'm working with patients, I'm always like praying, and I'm always asking God for answers, and like being led to different books. Like, a book will pop into my mind, and then it'll be like, okay, go to chapter 12. And I go to chapter 12 and I read whatever that book says. And then it's like, with COVID especially, there's been issues, you know, that we've never seen. There's been a lot of issues with the body that we've never seen. And so then it's like, how do you take, you know, 1,000-year-old medicine and then integrate it into today, into now, when there's no point prescriptions for that specific ailment? So you asked, what is Chinese medicine? Chinese medicine is a 2,000+ year old medicine. And it's like, basically, it's a very extensive medicine based within China. And so within China, there was, and during the time of the Yellow Emperor, there were these people were getting sick. And so the emperor actually sent all of their soldiers to go study with these different lineages and get all of their medicine. So it's with herbs, acupuncture, medical massage, and qi movement. So basically the whole medicine breaks down to that. And then within there, all these different channels and the meridians in the body, and the channels and the meridians are based on the star system. And so basically it's like the constellation, and then it's a reflection of the constellation in our body. And because then the concepts, even with like you being a philosopher, as above, so below, and it's like anything that's happening above is happening below. And then you also look at it within like the context of the way that the sun is orbiting with the planets, you know, it all is integrated into our body. And so like what's happening on a cellular level, which would be like the atoms, protons, neutrons within our atoms, you know, then what's happening in outer space is the same. So then of course it's happening in the middle. And so your body would be, our body is, you know, the humanity is the middle between the heavenly realm and the earth. And so everything that's happening in the, and when you say heavenly realm within Chinese medicine, it's not meaning like there's like this, because being Catholic, I want to distance Catholicism and like having like God or heaven or any religion is different than the heavenly realm in Chinese medicine. Chinese medicine, when they say or they talk about the heavenly realm, it isn't this like this God-like figure. It's not like that. The Tao is the universe, and the Tao is like everything. And so when you say the heavenly realm, it just means like the sun, the moon, the stars, everything out in outer space, like everything that is above our minds is the heavenly realm. So all the space around us, like in the sky, all the way to the sun, all the way to the planets, would be the heavenly realm. Then there's the earth realm, which is like what we're walking on. And then there's the human body. And then within the human body, there's what we call the different jiaos. It's JIAO. So there's the upper jiao, the middle jiao, and then the lower jiao. And even like the way that they explain consciousness, it's like if the upper jiao is healthy and clear, it should be clear. It's almost like a clear sky. So then the middle jiao is like a murky water. So that would be just like a little bit tiny muddy. And then the lower jiao is the illumination. That's when like you get rid of, like you're getting rid of urine, you're getting rid of feces. And so, sorry, I have to mute myself. So you're getting rid of urine and feces, and that's the drainage ditch. And so what happens when any one of those realms are not working fluidly or properly, it's kind of like gray skies. You know, when you have gray skies, you're having like depressive thoughts. And so you want everything to, you know, you want it all to flow beautifully, just like it does in the sky. And so when you're looking at the sky, you know, it's like the clear skies, it's sunny, we're feeling bright, we're feeling, you know, like joyful, we want to go out, we want to exercise. And then when the rain or the fog comes, you know, it's like some people can get affected by that. And so you're looking at the body almost like, how do you maintain, you know, a clear sky in the mind, and then letting the body have homeostasis throughout it, where it's like a circuit, it's a system that just flows naturally.
What a powerful visualization you took me on. I was seeing everything working together. Yeah, as above, so below, and just seeing the interconnectedness of everything in our universe. I guess in Chinese medicine it's called the heavens or whatever. But just seeing all of that connected, it's so powerful. So thank you for that description of Chinese medicine. And what is acupuncture for those who may not know?
So acupuncture, we're taking, because our body is an electrical system. Your nervous system is an electrical system. And Chinese medicine is basically like metal. I mean, most of you have like had interactions with metal, like look at the phone poles, you know what I mean? Like even if you're not aware, your every single day life is conducting through metal. It's like there's the satellites that are out in the universe that, you know, not in the universe, but like out off of Earth, you know, and all of us are using 5G, like you and I are using it right now, and we're talking. And it's like, I'm not talking, you know, we're not in the same room. My voice is actually getting carried out through, and you're hearing my voice exactly like I'm speaking it right this second, and you're not with me. And so it's, the thing is with acupuncture and with acupuncture needles, you're directing energy. And so it's like, how are you hearing me if I'm not there? And when people are like, oh, that's woo woo, it's like, it's actually just science. You know what I mean? It's like, how are you hearing me right now? How are you picking up my voice? Like, you're not here, you know? So how is it woo woo that my voice is going through a satellite that you can't see, and then it's reflecting and bouncing back to you? Is that woo woo? Like, and a lot of people don't think about that kind of stuff, you know? So when you're looking at acupuncture, you're directing energy. So you're directing energy in the body, or you're directing energy out of the body. You're building energy, you're sedating energy. It's like whatever it is that's going on in the body, you're doing something to it. So it's like acupuncture, you take these little tiny metal needles and you place it into the different meridians for different reasons. So like, for instance, like if I wanted to sedate your mind, if your mind is overactive and you can't sleep, then I would take a needle and I would direct it right in the middle of your forehead, and I would press the needle down to kind of like ask the mind to just be quiet. Or if I wanted to like help you sleep, there's a point back here, it's called Anmian, and I would weave that point. Like I would take a needle and I would weave into it, and that would just pull your thoughts back. Or if you're having a headache, you know, if you're having a headache and there's too much energy in your head, then I would take 4 different points on your extremities and I would pull your energy from your head into your body. So when you're looking at the acupuncture needles, there's different reasons why you there's hundreds of points. There's like many hundreds of points. And then there's thousands of point combinations of why you would use different points for different reasons. So when you're looking at utilizing acupuncture, you're placing the acupuncture needles, which are, I mean, I actually have one right here. I'll grab one so everyone can see in the video. You're taking these little tiny needles that you can't even really see, you know, like it's like, let's see, very small needle. It's like they're not, and when people say, oh, I'm scared of needles, it is so not the same as like getting a shot or getting your blood drawn. They're very thin.
It's so different. I used to think that too. Yeah, it's so different.
So different. It doesn't feel the same at all. You barely feel it. And it's like, then you're placing it, you're puncturing different parts of the body to elicit different responses. So it's like the way that one of my teachers explained it is like, you always want to find the root cause of the disorder. So it's like, why are the headaches happening? You just don't treat the headaches like to get the pain away. You have to figure out where is the hole in the system. And you want to figure out like, the way that one of my teachers explained it is if your body is sinking for whatever reason, like if you're having headaches, if you're having sinus issues, if you're having menstrual issues, you have to figure out like, what is the root cause? Like, why is the body sinking? And like, if your body is sinking, just like a boat, if a boat is sinking, you have to throw all the heavy stuff overboard because you want to keep it floating as long as you possibly can. So what your body is doing when you have these different ailments is it's trying to throw something overboard. And so you have to figure out what channel, what meridian, what is the root cause that the disorder is, and then do I need to build energy? Do I need to sedate energy? Like if somebody's having high blood pressure and it's like their blood pressure is moving up, then we're having to extract energy. We're having to like come in, and most of the time, not all of the time, sometimes high blood pressure can come from like a root disease that's deficient. But it's like if I have someone with high blood pressure and they're like dangerously high, the first thing that I'll do is I'll bleed their ear. Like I'll take a lancet and I'll bleed their ear. And then I just watch, like I have to like squeeze the blood to make the blood, the heat in the blood leave the body. And so that would be like more of like an excessive situation where it's like if somebody's like very dehydrated and they have like low back pain and headaches, then I would go more, like towards like the kidneys, the water, like drinking more water, getting them on bone broths, looking at their nutrition, like why aren't you drinking water? You know what I mean? And like the reasons of like why they're not nurturing or nourishing themselves versus like an excessive situation.
Yeah. Yeah. So important to get to the root cause and not just treating the symptom. Absolutely. And so I want to shift, and I think that we'll probably include Chinese medicine and acupuncture into some of these tips. What is at least one tip that you have for any holistic entrepreneurs, spiritual entrepreneurs?
You have to learn how to sedate your nervous system. Like you have to learn how to be the calm in the storm. Like even if everything as being an entrepreneur, you have to look at yourself as a sailor. And you have to look at yourself as like, you are a sailor, you are the chief of your staff. You have a job to, keep your boat intact, and you have to keep your products intact, and you have to keep your team intact. And it's like, no matter what kind of storm that you're in, because being an entrepreneur, it's not all clear skies. Sometimes it's a storm and sometimes it's a shit storm. And I mean, even myself right now, like I'm in the middle of a huge product launch, and then one of my web developers like goes in and like was supposed to make minor edits and completely botched my entire done site. And it's like in the development phase, it was already done. It was developed. It looked perfect. They needed to change some sizing. And then I had to, they're like, okay, it's just going to take a little bit longer. And then 2 weeks later, and I'm like, okay, I have to pull that project from you and I'm going to give it to someone else because like, you're just not executing it. And like, I did like videos and I like explained it. I like redid all my PowerPoints, and I'm like, oh my God, I am wasting so much time. And like, as an entrepreneur, it's like your time is the most valuable currency that you have, more than even, like there's a certain amount of time that you have to spend making money. And then there's a certain amount of time that you have to do like with your chi cultivation practices and like making sure that you're nourishing yourself, like seeing your family, eating healthy. And it's like, I've been caught up, in the hamster wheel before of just like doing. But it's like, you have to build it into your lifestyle. And so one of the best things that you can do is learn how to sedate your nervous system. When you feel like you're in a storm and all of your staff is like coming at you, and even whether you have staff or you don't have staff, but it's like, I have 2 different businesses and my private practice. So I have like one team over here, and then I have all of my patients that I'm dealing with. And, sometimes they're families too. And so it's like, there's a lot of conversations going on. There's a lot of, like some of the work that I do is a lot with like sexual assault. So there's a lot of trauma going on, and I have to learn how to be the calm, not just within my businesses, but I have to learn how to be the calm in my private practice. And so as an entrepreneur, learning sedating your nervous system techniques, whether it's like you're getting acupuncture, you are going for walks, you're doing grounding techniques. There's a lot of different grounding techniques that you do, but I highly recommend every entrepreneur learning basic acupressure for sedating the nervous system, because you have to be able to just like collect yourself in any moment and guide your ship in the storm.
Yeah, absolutely. Is sedating your nervous system the same as regulating your nervous system?
I mean, there's different there in Chinese medicine, no, because regulating your nervous system is like, like a regulating the nervous system is like you have your internal turbulence. You know what I'm saying? Like you have like your anger, your frustration that's like unique to your life, where it's like your inner child or, things that are coming up for you in your personal life. Like maybe you got in a fight with your partner that's like an actual fight that you guys needed to get into, and then you guys have to navigate it and move through it. But how do you take your wife or your husband or your partner, whether it's a wife or a husband or whatever that you're attracted to, and you have to take that off, and then you have to be in your boss mode. That would be you're regulating your nervous system. Regulate my nervous system. I'm going to get back into work and I'm going to do it. Sedating the nervous system is like you are also freaking out. You know what I mean? Like you're like everything, like last week, for instance, like when all of this development was happening, and I was just like, oh my God, like this is way over my planned budget. This is now like, not only is it over my planned budget, now I have to spend all this extra money. Like I just spent all this money for them to botch it. Now I have to spend more money to fix it. And then I have this whole other launch that's moving forward like a freaking freight train. And it's like, I'm driving the ship. And so it's like, I'm having to like be calm, show up for these meetings, show up for my patients, be in the process of the execution of the launch, like dealing with, like sales engines and dealing with all these different things as my ship's on fire, like the whole front facing aspect of the development that was completely done is now completely botched. And it's just like when you are an entrepreneur and you finish something, it feels so good and you're so happy. And then all of a sudden someone goes in the back end and it's just like, I'm just gonna like mess all that up, and it's just like, then it's like, okay, like you have to sedate, like, cause it's like, there's part of you that like lights on fire. And then you want to be like, what the fuck were you just thinking? And I'm just like, you have to be able to like go into a room and let the rage out and then come back to your team and be like, okay, what were you thinking? Like, what was going on in your mind when you thought that was a good idea? And then you have to put the systems in place, where it's like, and asking yourself and having mentors, like I was on the phone with one of my mentors last night and I'm like, listen, I don't know what to do. I like, this is what just happened. And like, do I fire this person? Is this something that's workable? Because it's like, as development, like, I don't know how many of you are in development in your crew, but if you're an entrepreneur, you will absolutely be dealing with development if you have a forward facing business that is online, which is most of our businesses are going online. And so, like as I've grown, I've learned to like just have staff on my team that's just doing it instead of like going and like hiring someone to do it, because I want to be more hands-on with the process. And so it's like I have to regulate not just regulate my nervous system, I have to sedate my nervous system. I have to be like, you need to calm down. You are not going to yell at these people. Like, it's just like, because I have standards of how I want to show up in the world. And, like you do fall short of those standards. Like one of the videos that I sent to my team, I was very visibly angry. But I stated in the beginning, I was like, listen, I'm very upset. This is why I'm upset. I'm going to go over this line by line because I do not understand, if I give you a perfect product, how you can't execute the perfection in the product. Like you have to have more attention to detail. But then it's like, where's the point as the entrepreneur where you say, okay, this person doesn't have as much attention to detail as I need for my on team people. So then I have to, figure out the budget that I need to basically go and find somebody that has this level of attention to detail. Because somebody that is as perfectionist as me and my main person that works for me, with me, Antoinette, it's like our attention to detail is top of the top. Like we are crazy girls with detail, and we go over and over and over multiple times before we're even pushing it into development. So then when we get a development team that's pushing it back to us and they don't have the same attention to detail, and we've already, like her and I, when we go from product to development, we have spent sometimes like 100 hours on a product, just going back and forth, making it exactly the way that we want it. And so when you take it from that to the next phase, and somebody gives it back to you that way, but it's not just with product development. This is any part of your life. So it's like, you have to learn how to, because it's like, if when you make a masterpiece and somebody takes it and just like throws it back to you and they just jumble it. It would be like if you went to a Picasso painting and you just decided to line art all over it. And it's just like, that's Picasso. You don't touch his painting, you know? And as like a designer, like my Antoinette and I are both like deep into design. We're like, how dare you, you know? But then it's like, how do you just communicate? And, you know, and then also like as a business owner, that's what I was talking about to my mentor last night, was like, as a business owner, how much of it do I have to make space to coach and like, you know, be like, okay, here's our line and I'm going to coach you up. And how much of it is like, okay, this is a waste of my time now, because now I had to put another 5 hours into this project that I was already done with. And how much time is that person taking from you? And I think that with that also, it's also a sedating the nervous system, because you have to get your frustrations aside. You have to get your scarcity aside. You know, when something goes over budget, or you get hit with something that you weren't planning on getting hit with, you know, as an entrepreneur, especially as you're building, and you're like, oh my God. And so like, how am I going to make up for this like huge gap, you know, that I didn't plan for and I didn't have? And as you're building, it's like, there are going to be those moments. And even like my friends that have like companies that are worth like $60 million, they still have those moments where it's like that, like something happens, there's a gap that happens, there's issues that go on within running a huge operation, that you have to be able to be the calm in the storm. And the only way that you can be calm is if your nervous system is calm.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Like, so powerful. Just a few clarifications. So is sedating your nervous system? It doesn't sound like it, but I'm just going to ask the question because I think I could feel other people thinking this right now. Like, is it emotional suppression?
Absolutely not. You're not avoiding your emotions. No.
Right.
Like, it's not, the thing is you can feel all of your emotions. And I want to clarify, your emotions are different than your nervous system. Your nervous system is your nerves interacting with your body, whether you're going into fight or flight, or, you know, you're going for a run, or you're adjusting. Like, it's your nervous system is on autopilot. And so it's like when you walk out into the street and like a car is coming, your nervous system will jump you back, right? Like, you know, right away. I mean, my nervous system is very, very sharp. And so like a cup will fall and I'll grab it before it'll even, like, I don't even think about it and my arm's already down there because my nervous system moves that way. And it's like, I've been like that for a while in my own life. Like my niece, for instance, like one time she was really little, she was playing in the waves and my sister and I were on the beach and we were watching her. And then all of a sudden this huge set comes in and it just pulls her out. And I was already like in the water basically as it was coming, because it was like, my whole situation is like, I'm like, even though my sister and I were talking and I was a little distracted, it was like, I was already there before I even thought about it. Like I was already like in the water with her. And instead of taking her out, like immediately I knew if I take her out of the water, she's going to have fear. And I don't want her to be scared of the ocean. So I took her and she just was like crying. Cause I mean, she was like under for a second. It was very scary for her. And so I just took her deeper into the water and I just waited for her to completely calm down. And she was crying and she was just like, she was so scared. And I just held her like really tight to my body. And I walked as deep as we could go. I'm a swimmer. So like I can like swim with my niece on like with me. And so I went as deep as we could go and I held her until I felt her nervous system was super calm. And then we played in the water for a minute, and I'm fully clothed, by the way. I didn't even have my bathing suit that day because I didn't plan on going in the water. And I was just like, you know, the ocean is it's very intense. Like you have to always watch the waves. And sometimes these very scary things can happen, but that's why we have to learn how to swim. You know, you have to learn how to like swim and dive under the waves, and you have to constantly be watching the waves. And like, sometimes you have to dive under them and sometimes you can like pop over them, but it's like, you always have to be watching the ocean when you want to swim in it, because you never know you never know, like you never know what waves are coming. And I think it's the same thing as an entrepreneur. And like speaking to her nervous system, like if I would have just taken, like a lot of people would have just like taken her out of the water and been like, oh my God. But if I would have taken her out of the water, the last memory that she would have had would be that a wave took her out and I saved her, instead of we went deeper into the water and we were there and we were like she was safe, you know? And so part of what you have to do as an entrepreneur is you, like all of us have fight or flight responses. And as an entrepreneur, you are going to, your body is going to go into fight or flight. It's just part of it. You know, like there's like budgets come down, things happen. And it's like the scarcity and all of everything that happens is part of your drive. It's part of what moves you. It's part of what ignites you. And so it's like, I don't look at like all of that as a bad thing, but it's like, and it can be emotional. Like you can, like that anger, you know, when I'm feeling angry like that, I can go in and I can like rip apart a website in like a fraction of the time because I have so much anger. But do I take that anger and do I scream at one of my staff? Absolutely not. I would never, you know, and like that's not suppression of emotions. Like it's not, as your entrepreneur, it is your job to be a leader, and leaders should show up in a very specific way. And that's not suppression of emotion. That's being mindful, and it's being conscious, and it's being like very executed with how you want to deliver your messages. Did I want to call everyone and scream? Absolutely. But did I? Absolutely not. You know, because it's my job to emotionally regulate myself. It's my job to sedate my nervous system. Emotional regulation and like being angry and projecting anger, or like I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do that to anyone that I care about or that's working for me, because I have a specific experience that I want people to have that do work with me and have interactions with me.
Yeah, absolutely. And what are some ways that people can sedate their nervous system? Is the main way through acupuncture, or are there some other tips?
There's tons of ways you can do it. I mean, there's like cold, like some of the things, sometimes what I do is I like put my hands in like ice water. Like I'm just like put my hand, like,
Oh, I love that.
yeah. I'm like a firecracker, and then I'll just like type emails, you know what I mean? And then I just like go to Chat GPT and I'm like, make this loving and kind. I just like put it on your notes.
That's a good idea. Oh my gosh. Write something the way you want to write it, and then have GPT put a
professional, loving and kind.
A different layer on top of what you already wrote. I love that.
Totally. I do it every time. I mean, like I adhere to nonviolent communication. Like that's like one of my classes that I teach is like, it's actually my breakup course, and it goes into like really deep nonviolent communication. And it's like, I adhere to it. I live by it. And it's like one of these things where it's like, you're not always going to be perfect. Like I am not nonviolent communication, but I strive to be nonviolent communication. And like my experience, especially people that are working with me. And so with that, it's like, I type everything out because I am not one to negate my feelings, but I think that my feelings and my emotions are something that I process with like my best friends, my therapist, and my mentors. And that's how I process. And everyone can choose your poison, choose how you will. But it's like, for me, I don't need to process my emotions with every single person that I interact with. But that's also part of being Irish Catholic. Like Irish people are just more stoic anyways. And so people are like, oh, you're just so non-emotional. And I'm like, no, I'm really emotional, actually. I just don't feel the need to like go and talk to every single person, including like somebody at the coffee shop that hurts my feelings. Like, you hurt my feelings. Like, you know, and it's like, you love all the woo stuff. I have a Cancer moon. I'm always in my feelings. So it's just like, I am a very feelings girl. I feel all the time. I feel everything. My feelings are hurt all the time. And it's just like, I'm just like, okay. And I just like hug myself, or, you know, like that ice. There's a lot of different acupuncture is obviously amazing. I highly recommend it to anybody, that especially entrepreneurs, because you want to maximize your energy, and you want to maximize your boundaries, and you want to maximize your sleep. You want to, like, acupuncture is for longevity. And so acupuncture is amazing to be part of your weekly or bi-weekly practice. Or even like for some people, you know, once a quarter, to tune into the seasons, where it's like, you're basically like making yourself like in directional coordinates to your mission and your purpose. I think it's amazing. That being said, I know it's not accessible to everybody. And so I would highly recommend having an acupressure practice. I actually just I finished it. It's not even up on my site. It'll be up next week. An acupressure book with line art. And so it basically makes acupressure very accessible. And then it says the spiritual aspect and the functional aspect of 50 of my favorite points. So one of my favorite points, and you guys can sign up on Rose Thorn, it's rose-thorn.com. And there's a free PDF when you sign up for our newsletter that goes into the deeper sedation of the nervous system, because I think it's one of the most important things that we can learn. But real quick, this point right here on the ear, and you can Google it online, it's a sympathetic. And so it's this point right here, and you just press it. And so like you press into it, and I have some videos too on my Instagram about it. And you just like, you can like make noises with it. You can go,
It's tender. Like it's tender on one side.
Yeah, it tends to be, especially if you have an active nervous system. And so you just kind of take a minute, and I like to go like, oh, you know what I mean? Like you just like,
so good.
It feels so nice. And you
really needed that on my left side.
It's also like, if you give yourself like 8 seconds of this and then take an 8-minute walk. I love the number 8. It's my birthday. I'm just like, oh, and I just kind of like let it out. And then as I'm doing it, I imagine myself being connected to the sun, and then grounded through all my body, all my chakras, all my channels, grounded into the earth. And I'm like, okay, and then you have whatever your mantras are, where I'm like, I am a sovereign queen. I make money effortlessly. I am safe. Like I am nurtured. I'm fine. I eat food every day. I'm not hungry. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, you just kind of like
have so good. It's like
so good. And so that's just
I feel the impact, like my energy, like just shot up, like more optimistic energy as soon as I started to do that.
It's like the sympathetic nervous system. So it's like, you're literally like fight or flight, because what happens is like, we're animals. And so we don't have like, most of us, hopefully, that are listening are like, I think your audience is mostly entrepreneurs. So you're not like struggling. You are not struggling for food. And that's something like, even though we're not struggling, our nervous system, it's like we have new struggles now, which is like the entrepreneurship, or, how are you going to pay your staff this month, or whatever the thing
is. Juggling things, delegating.
Yeah, like shipment costs for a product, or whatever it is, like, and now like with interest rates, like now it's interest rates, and you're just like, okay, it puts your body into fight or flight. And so now it's not like, oh my God, how am I going to get my food today? Now it's like, how am I going to operate the system of my business in the storm? And so it's like, some days you're not going to need it, but like when I'm very frustrated, I'm just like, but I also I like sedating my nervous system at least once a day, where I just like, am like, okay, like as a morning practice, like tuning in, resetting my brain, connecting to my nervous system. Because I think that when you take the moment to connect to your nervous system, and what you feel like, then you can, you can navigate yourself of how you want to show up in the world.
Yeah. I love that. So for me, Kundalini yoga is like, that's like my jam, right? I could do it in the morning. I could do it in the evening. I mean, it's a time commitment. And once I get pulled in, I can't just do like 10 minutes. I got to do like my full hour, but I love this tip, this acupressure point by the ear. So I feel like this will be a compliment to my Kundalini yoga that I do. And this is something I could do in between my Zoom calls. So thank you for that.
I love it. Who do you do Kundalini with?
I just do it online. I just hop on YouTube. Camilla is like one of my favorites on YouTube. Yeah.
I grew with Jai Dev. He's so good. The Life Force Academy.
Oh yeah. I just found him probably a couple months ago. So I don't know if I've tapped into his content that much, but
I love his content. It's so good. I'm a Kundalini girl. I do Kundalini all day long. Actually, it's a funny story. I did Jai Dev's his abundance. Like it was like a 90-day abundance. And when I was doing it, I mean, I had already set the prayers for my whole business. And that was the first month I made 50 grand. And I was like, woo! But it was like so directly related to my practice. Like it was deeply.
Yes. I'm going to go do that one, because 50 grand on my monthly list for a while. I love that. So his abundance plan. Okay, cool. So we're wrapping up. Do you have like maybe a quote or any last words for entrepreneurs on our expansion journey, on our healing journey?
Oh my God. It's so funny. The first thing that I thought of, which is terrible, is keep it moving, stupid. Like, it's just like, it's such a simple, and I'm not calling anyone stupid, but I think that like, one of the things that happens as an entrepreneur is when you feel stuck, you feel frozen. And if you can just keep it moving, it's just like sometimes the movement forward is an avalanche. And sometimes it's just you getting out of bed and drinking water and taking a deep nutrition day and going for walks in nature. But like, I think that one of the biggest things is just to keep it moving. And part of what I've been learning lately as an entrepreneur is those empty spaces are just as important as the avalanche. And those empty spaces, like I've been like going for really long walks on the beach and just like trying to be connected to the wind and be connected, to the earth and feeling all those elements. And that is the inspiration that builds the next avalanche of movement. And so I think that as an entrepreneur, get really comfortable with the seasons of it and like the busyness versus the stillness, and just keep it moving. Just keep it moving, keep it moving. And if you feel stuck, go get your body moving, and just like, and have that be an artistic practice of like, no matter what, I'm just going to keep it moving. And sometimes like in my life and my practice and also in my business, when I get stuck, I like to like go out with my girlfriends or like literally just fully disconnect from work and just say, God, I want a miracle, or like Spirit, I want a miracle, universe, I want a miracle. Like I have X, Y, and Z I want to execute, and I'm so open to divine intervention. I'm open to miracles. I'm going to put everything away for an hour and I'm just going to go do what brings me joy in life. And I would say that that's part of keeping it moving. So when you get stuck, get your body moving.
Yes. So powerful. Oh my gosh. Today's conversation has been so good. So many gems. Thank you for your energy, your time, your expertise, all of it. And Sheila's information will be in the description box so you can connect with her. And yeah, thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me.